John Fitzgerald Kennedy, often referred to as JFK, was an American politician who served as the 35th President of the United States from the 20th of January 1961 until his infamous assassination on the 22nd of November 1963. Of Irish descent, he was born into the prominent Kennedy family in Brookline, Massachusetts on May 29, 1917. After completing his studies at Harvard in 1940, he joined the US Navy. On August 1, 1943, his PT boat was struck and sunk by a Japanese destroyer during the Solomon Islands campaign of the Pacific Theater during World War II. Despite suffering serious injuries, Kennedy courageously guided the survivors through treacherous waters to a small island named Kosolo Island, later renamed Kennedy Island. With the aid of locals and a coconut, he was rescued 7 days later. After returning home from the war, he transitioned into politics, serving as a Democratic congressman representing the Boston area. His political career advanced in 1953 when he moved to the Senate. During his recovery from a back surgery in 1955, he authored the acclaimed book Profiles in Courage, which earned him a Pulitzer Prize in history. Kennedy nearly secured the Democratic nomination for vice president in 1956, and 4 years later became the first ballot nominee for president. His televised debate with Republican candidate Richard Nixon on Monday, September 26, 1960 drew millions of viewers. Winning by a slim margin the popular vote, Kennedy was inaugurated as the first Roman Catholic president and the youngest person ever elected president on January 20, 1961. During his nearly 3-year tenure in office, his economic initiatives initiated the country's longest sustained economic growth since World War II. He devised plans for a substantial campaign against lingering poverty, advocated for new civil rights laws, established the Alliance for Progress and the Peace Corps, and bolstered the United States military capabilities, including advancements in space exploration. But personally, one of his greatest accomplishments has to be the phone call he made in the summer of 1963, which has to go down in history as one of the greatest presidential phone calls of all time. During the summer of 1963, Jacqueline Kennedy, the heavily pregnant wife of President JFK, was staying at the Kennedy family compound in Hyannisport, Massachusetts. While Washington DC had ample medical facilities ready to care for the family during the birth, the situation was different in Hyannisport. The nearest medical facility for a president was located at Otis Air Force Base on the western part of Cape Cod. Air Force personnel were concerned that if Miss Kennedy delivered the child at the Otis Air Force Base Hospital, the maternity ward's furniture might not meet the standards expected for the newborn child of the President and First Lady. The story goes that the Air Force allocated $5,000 of taxpayer money to buy new furniture from the high-end New England department store chain Jordan Marsh. They even permitted media photos of US Navy aide Ernest Carlton alongside the new purchase. When these images appeared in the Washington Post, an angered JFK promptly called his military aide United States Air Force General Godfrey McHugh.
General? Yes, sir. That Air Force has caused itself more grief with that silly bastard. Did you see the Post this morning?
Yes, sir. I'm looking.
See that fella's picture by the bed?
Yes, sir.
And you see that furniture they bought from Jordan Marsh? What the hell do they let the reporters in there for? Are they crazy up there? Now you know what's going to do. Any congressman's going to get up and say, Christ, if they can throw $5,000 away on this, let's cut them another $1 billion. You just sank the Air Force budget. You're crazy up there. Are they crazy? That silly bastard with his picture next to the bed?
Sir, I'm appalled, but,
Well, I'm appalled, too. Now, the thing of the matter is, I'm going to get that furniture. I've just told Sylvester, and you can talk to him. I want to find out if we pay for that furniture, because I want it to go back to Jordan Marsh's.
all right, sir.
Then I want that fella's incompetent who had his picture taken next to Mrs. Kennedy's bed, if that's what it is. I mean, he's a silly bastard. I wouldn't have him running a cat house. And that Colonel Carlson, who let in Larry Newman and those reporters, is he crazy too? Christ, they're not all incompetent. Is that the way they're throwing money around over there? You better look into it, and especially when you told me that they hadn't spent a cent.
Well, sir, this is obviously...
Well, this is obviously a fuck-up.
That's
okay.
right. That's right.
Right.
After the profanity-laden phone call, the furniture was then assumed to have been promptly returned to the nearest Jordan Marsh. Ultimately, on August 7, 1963, which happened to be the 20th anniversary of the US Navy's rescue of JFK from an island in the Pacific, the youngest Kennedy was born at 12:52 p.m. at the Otis Air Force Base Hospital, arriving 5.5 weeks prematurely. The infant's birth weight was around 4 pounds 10.5 ounces, and was the first child born to a serving US President and First Lady since the 19th century. Sadly, shortly after delivery, the infant exhibited signs of HMD, now known as Infant Respiratory Distress Syndrome. Upon seeing his son's condition, the president summoned a chaplain. The baby was promptly baptized and named Patrick in honor of his great-grandfather Patrick Joseph Kennedy, with the middle name Bouvier in tribute to his mother's maiden name. 5 hours after birth, the newborn was urgently transported by ambulance to Boston Children's Hospital, a journey of 70 miles completed in just under 90 minutes. Tragically, Patrick Bouvier Kennedy passed away at 4:04 a.m. on August 9th, having lived for 39 hours and 12 minutes. A small funeral service took place on August 10th, 1963 at Cardinal Richard Cushing's private chapel in Boston. 1961. Initially laid to rest at Hollywood Cemetery in Brookline, Massachusetts, the president's hometown, Patrick's and his stillborn sister Arabella's remains were later reinterred on December 5, 1963, alongside their father at Arlington National Cemetery, before being moved to their final resting place in Section 45, Grid U35. This has been me, Jack, and if you're a Kennedy watching this video, please leave a comment down below.